Hi, it's Alexis Hasselberger, time management and productivity coach. Let me ask you a question. If you are a perfectionist, a self-professed perfectionist, do you also have procrastination tendencies? So lots and lots of my clients have this combo of perfectionism and procrastination. And at first, when you think about it, you're like, what? Like, does that make any sense that these two things go together? But I think there's a reason that I see these things so often go together. And if you'll allow me to indulge for a second, this is why I think it is. So here's the thing. If you are a little bit of a perfectionist, and you are waiting till the last minute, well, the reason something isn't perfect is because there wasn't enough time to make it perfect, right? If you give yourself all the time you need and it's still not perfect, well, then it's your fault, right? It's not time's fault, it's your fault. And so I think there's this kind of cycle that happens where we want something to be perfect. We're not sure how to get it there because it's impossible. And so we procrastinate because we're stressed out about it and it takes, we want it to be perfect and it can't be. And so we procrastinate more. And so if this is you, if you find yourself procrastinating, if you find yourself to be a bit of a perfectionist, and if you find these two things going hand in hand, I want to share with you 5 strategies that you can use to help move past this, to help let a little bit of this go. So the first one is to break things down. Now, have you ever had this situation where you had a new project, a new task, you weren't exactly sure how to do it, you were a little bit stressed about it, and so you just keep pushing it, you keep pushing it down the line. All of a sudden it's due tomorrow. Now you have to do it. You finally sit down, buckle down, get yourself to do it. And it takes you all of 10 minutes. Now you've spent so much time worrying about this thing. It took 10 minutes once you actually sat down to figure out what the steps are, right? I mean, this has definitely happened to me. So if instead you can look at a task or a project and say, like, what is just the first step? What is the first step that can move this forward? The smallest step possible, then that is going to help you to push past that procrastination related to that perfectionism. Now, another thing that you can do is to give yourself time limits, right? Set a timer. So instead of saying like, oh, I have all the time in the world to do this thing, say, okay, this is the time that I have available, and I'm going to set a timer and I'm going to get as much of it done as I can, or I'm going to get it to an MVP state. I'm going to get it to a good state in this period of time. Now, it might be that you need a little more time than that, but the timer is going to be a clock that you're working against, and it's a clock that's happening sooner than the actual deadline. So that can definitely help as well. Just giving yourself time limits. Now, another thing that you can do is to use templates. Now, lots of people that I work with, they struggle with, just writing people back with emails, with sending communications, because they want the words to be perfect, right? You want to make sure that the communication you're sending, that it's sending the right message, that it's perfect. And sometimes these things are hard to do, right? It's hard to think about all of this stuff. We're not sure it's going to be right. Of course, it's not going to be perfect. But there are lots of times where templates can be in order because we are saying something similarly over and over and over. Now, we think we are. We always think every message we send is very custom. But I challenge you to check if this is actually true. Where this comes up a lot for folks is around saying no or pushing back to things. It's really hard to do that. It's hard to come up with the emotional energy. So creating templates for yourself so that it's a kind of an if-then situation. If this happens, this is what I send out. Of course, you might, edit it a little bit, make it a little bit more personal. That can really help as well. It can help just move things along. Now, another email trick that you can use is that schedule send feature. So I know usually when we're using schedule send, it's because we don't want to send emails at a particular time. Maybe we don't want our coworkers to, receive an email at midnight because they might think that they have to answer that, right? And so we're using it to be kind. But we can also use schedule send to be kind to ourselves. And so what do I mean by this? So if you are hesitating on sending out an email, sending out a correspondence, because you're just not sure the words are right, that they're perfect, right? I want you to write that draft, write that email, and then schedule it for a few hours to send in a few hours, or schedule it to send tomorrow. Now, what this does is a little trick for our mind, right? It allows you to say, well, it's not sent. So, I have time to edit this. I have time to revisit this if I want to. And of course you do. If you think of something else, you can go in and you can revisit it. But what most likely will happen is that you will kind of forget about it and that email will just be sent out and it will be fine because nobody's spending more than 15 seconds reading an email anyways. And so it didn't matter if your words were perfect or not, and it will have just gotten done. And now the last strategy that I want to share with you is just around experimentation. So if you change your mindset a little bit from, the goal of everything is to get it done perfectly to my goal is to experiment with what's best, right? Then that lowers the bar for you because in an experiment, perfection is not even something that anyone's shooting for, right? You're just shooting to learn more information. You're shooting to iterate to get better. And so if you can approach things as an experiment where you're trying to learn information, where you're trying to, get it better each time around, then that lowers the bar where we're not thinking so much about the perfectionism anymore. And because we're being iterative, we want to get those iterations in. And so we are moving forward on things. It wards off that procrastination that often comes with perfectionism. So, if this is you, if you are someone who is both a perfectionist and procrastinates, I want you to try out some of these techniques and tell me, tell me in the comments if something has worked for you, or if you have techniques I didn't mention. Tell us those in the comments too. I would love to hear them. And if you like content like this, don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, guys, you actually got to do what she says. See, only 11% of you guys are actually subscribed that watch our video. So why don't you just subscribe?